G'day. How long will this Alpine drama take to disappear, because there was still plenty going on in Imola? Well, Franco Colapinto's first race for Alpine was interesting. He was the subject of huge media interest, and of course his crash in Q1 was disappointing for the young Argentinian, but he bounced back on race day and finished admirably. And then after the race, his manager mentioned he was going out to see his fans, and there were thousands out on the track, so I followed him out there, and boy, did they go wild for the young Argentinian. Of course, the man he replaced is Jack Doohan, and Jack had spent a good amount of time at the simulator in Enstone doing some work for the race day on Sunday. He rolled up to Imola on Saturday and bizarrely wasn't in the Alpine hospitality suite. Instead, he and his entourage were holed up in the F1 motorhome, which is right next door. Why? Well, it was all designed to help Franco focus on the job at hand. The team put out a press release originally saying that Franco had 5 races, but then it was clarified later as not the case, so there appears to be some confusion in the team, and with Alpine, that's not unusual. And on the subject of Flavio, he attended the team principal's dinner and took along with him Luca Di Maio, who runs Renault. And the only team not to send a team principal was Mercedes, because Toto Wolff was not in Imola. One team principal who was there was Christian Horner. You can't doubt his devotion. He has attended every single Formula One race while he has been team principal. That's 400 odd. He even missed the birth of one of his children. On the subject of Ollie Oakes, who resigned as team principal a couple of weeks ago, he was at the track, and we got word on Friday that he was there, although nobody had a photo. I actually found him on Saturday at the high-tech garage, went to take a couple of pics, and he walked away, and I said, "Oh, come on, Ollie," and he looked around and laughed and said, "No, come and have a chat." So we had a chat for about 10 minutes, and in brief, he said there's been a lot of rubbish written about me. One, I didn't flee to Dubai. I had business in the region, so I had to go there. With regards signage on the trucks, he says, no, we haven't had signage on the trucks for quite some time. It wrecks the paintwork. The cars still had high-tech on them, and he wasn't wanted for questioning, and if he was, he went back to England, so they could have very easily found him. Ollie won't be in Monaco, but will be going to Barcelona with high-tech racing. And before I forget, my brand new bucket hats are now available for you to order at kimillman.com. Just click on the shop. Still on the subject of Jack and Franco, Jack, when he had his crash in Suzuka, was using chassis number 4. He then had to go backwards to chassis 3, which Franco inherited. He had the crash in quali in Imola and then had to go back to chassis number 2. Coming up shortly too, I'll run through what the drivers drove, and there were some interesting cars in Imola. Fernando Alonso had his best qualifying effort since China in 2024. He ended up 5th, and in 24 he was 3rd. But gosh, that's well over a year prior. And post-quali, I found him hugging Flavio Briatore's son, and it's rare to see such emotion on Fernando's face, as it is to see emotion like this with Oscar Piastri. This wasn't taken after his P1 quali. In fact, it was prior to him going out for FP2. This was the first race in Europe, which means we had all of the team hospitality suites. Haas had a brand new one. I was told it took 14 trucks to move it around, but apparently it is far fewer than that. But still, let's have a look at all of the hospitality suites as we start at the top end of the paddock from McLaren and work our way down to the bottom end at Sauber. And you can see that there are a number of different designs, although the F1 and the FIA hospitality suites are mirror images, just different colours. Lewis Hamilton is still proving elusive to photograph when he comes into the track. He's very popular, of course, and in order for him to get from one place to the other, he has to be quick. And on a couple of occasions on the weekend, he went the back route down behind the hospitality suites, and it's not very pretty back there, but there is no media, there are no fans, and he can get where he wants to go in quick time. If you were at the San Marino Grand Prix at the Imola track going back to 85, you might have seen Thierry Boutsen push his car across the finishing line. Why did he do that? He ran out of fuel. And back then, you could push a car across the line because the rules simply stated that the car needed to make it across the line, and it did. These days, if you tried that sort of shenanigans, you'd probably get a ban or your license suspended. And indeed, could you even push a modern car? I saw something quite touching on Friday morning when Carlos Sainz was entering the paddock. This is young Ricardo. He has Sotos syndrome, which I had never heard about, but I had a chat with his mum afterwards about it. He's enamoured with Ferrari drivers, and his excitement when he saw Carlos enter was phenomenal. Carlos was equally as happy to engage with the youngster, giving him a beautiful hug, which I think gave Carlos as much joy as it gave Ricardo. Ricardo also presented him with a card. And later on in the weekend, he managed to get the attention of a number of other drivers. But a lovely young fella and a lovely moment that we don't often see. Well, Pierre Gasly hit a rabbit on track. I can't show you the vision, obviously, but trust me, he did. Originally, he thought it was a cat. George Russell qualified third over the weekend, but unfortunately finished seventh for him. But I did catch him warming up behind his motorhome. Now, I've not seen him warm up before, and I really loved this pose. It's not a pose, obviously, he's doing some stretching with a resistance band. But those photographs, for me, are quite lovely. I know a lot of them have now been turned into memes, which I guess is some sort of compliment to the picture and to the driver. His parents were there this weekend too, Stephen and Alison, and we had other parents as well. David Behrman joined Ollie. Randa Hadjar was there with her son Isaac, who actually ended up having to chip a fan who was a bit too aggressive on the selfie front. Charles Leclerc's mum was there. Yuki's parents were also there. I had a chat with Nobuaki, but didn't actually take a photo of him. Kimi's mum and dad both were there. Lawrence Stroll, yes. Jack Doohan's dad was there. As far as I could tell, Carlos Sainz's dad wasn't there. Let's jump now to race day, and Valtteri Bottas and I had a chat out on the grid, and he said this was the first time he's ever stood on the Imola grid as a non-race day driver. Now, this was the last Imola Grand Prix, or Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, for quite some time. And you know what, I'm sad. I love this race. It might be because I have such a lovely apartment in the heart of the city, because when I go back each night, especially on Friday and Saturday nights, the atmosphere is fantastic in there. There's thumping dance music, there's happy people, plenty of food and drink, and a real buzz that I think we miss in a lot of the newer F1 cities. Has it gone forever? Who knows? It certainly is an older style track, but just have a look at the scenery and the photographs we get with all of that greenery, with all of the elevation, although they wouldn't allow the media and Formula One personnel car park to open for at least 100 minutes after the end of yesterday's race. So I imagine a lot of people missed their flights. While I was wandering down pit lane on Friday, I noticed these plastic covers over the top of the side fins on most of the cars. And I found out that was to protect them because they are very, very thin, and they need to be thin for the maximum aerodynamic effect. They can easily be chipped, and especially when a driver gets into the car. So those custom-made covers protect them. Now, I'm recording this video on Monday morning after the Imola race, and I'm sitting here looking over what is a spectacular harbour. I can already see the Mercedes hospitality suite there in the paddock, and that's because they rotate. They have two different hospitality suites, so this one is different to the one that's being de-rigged right now in Imola. McLaren fans, if you're wondering why you don't see the Unboxed series anymore, it's because the rules on social media content for the teams was changed rather dramatically. I believe now it's 5 minutes either per day or per event, which effectively put the kibosh on that Unboxed series, which was a good one too, but still, it was deemed to perhaps tread on Netflix's Drive to Survive content, and it went by the way. Straight up, a couple of drivers drove their own personal cars from Monaco. Charles Leclerc in his SF90 Stradale, and Ollie Behrman in his own Ferrari Roma with Monaco plates. Here's Lewis arriving in a blue Puro Sangue from Ferrari. Interestingly, the only driver to drive right up to the swipe gates, and he drove himself on Sunday, which is unusual. Unusual car here, Franco Colapinto in an Alpine A290 GTS. Pierre Gasly in a Renault. Oscar and Lando were in Mercedes GLC 200Ds. Max Verstappen in a white Mercedes 200D. Liam Lawson in a Civic Type R Red. And so was Isaac Hadjar. Our beautiful black G-Wagon for George Russell. While Kimi Antonelli came with a bunch of Mercedes crew in a V250 diesel. Aston Martin drivers had DBX cars, but also Lance Stroll came in on a scooter with someone else. Esteban Ocon in a grey Stelvio from Alfa Romeo. Yuki Tsunoda, an Audi Q3. Alex Albon in a Mercedes CLA 180D. Carlos Sainz in a grey BMW. And he had a police escort on at least one of the days. Now that's unusual, because police escorts in Imola are only, get this, for Ferrari drivers. But being a past Ferrari driver, he somehow got one. Well done, Carlos. Gabriel Bortoletto in an Audi RS6. Nico Hulkenberg was the only one I didn't get. And I can tell you, I was in a bright yellow Ford Capri, an electric car with plenty of tow off the mark. and a huge screen on the dashboard, and that colour certainly got me plenty of looks. I now have to go and do a video about these beautiful Monaco yachts, but in the interim I'll ask you to subscribe if you haven't done so, and also like this video. Thanks for watching, and stay passionate. D's far